identify and use general hand tools, instruments, and equipment used in refrigeration work. Procedure. Task 1. Let us identify the tools required for refrigeration work. Number 1. Flaring tool with yoke. A flaring tool with a yoke is a crucial tool in refrigeration work, particularly when dealing with copper tubing. Flaring is a process that involves forming a flared or widened end on a piece of tubing to create a secure connection for fittings. This is commonly used in refrigeration and air conditioning systems where copper tubing is prevalent. Number 2. Tube cutter. Small diameter, annealed, soft copper tubes are used in most refrigeration work. Tube cutter is used to cut these tubes. It consists of a V-block against which the tube rests and an adjustable round plate of carbon steel which cuts the tube. After placing the tube in V-block, plate is adjusted and tube cutter is revolved the tube and cut the tube. Number 3. Pipe bending tool. There are external coil springs bending tools where the external spring is designed to be used near the ends of tubes. A lever type tube bender is used to form bends neatly and accurately without buckling the tubing. These tools will form bends up to 180 degrees in continuous operation. The forming wheel is calibrated to show the degree of bend attained. Each of these tools is used with one size of bending. Number 4. Swaging tools. Swaging is a means of shaping copper tubing so that operation is accomplished with a punch type or screw type swaging tool. The tubing is clamped into the flaring block and the specially designed punches hammered into the tubing, swaging or expanding the end so that it will fit over the end of another piece of tubing. Number 5. Pinching tools. It is used for sealing or closing the diameter of copper tubes. It consists of two bars forming jaws and holes of various sizes and are clamped together with using nuts and bolts. The tube is pinched off both the two jaws. Number 6. Sling psychrometer. Relative humidity is measured by an instrument known as the sling psychrometer. This instrument consists of two ordinary thermometers securely fastened in a frame which is attached by chain. By means of this chain, the instrument can be rapidly whirled around so that it comes in contact with maximum amount of air. Number 7. Leak detector. A leak detector is a crucial tool used in refrigeration work to identify and locate refrigerant leaks in a refrigeration or air conditioning system. Detecting and repairing leaks is essential for maintaining the system's efficiency, preventing environmental harm from refrigerant emissions, and ensuring the safety of the equipment. Task 2. Let us identify the instruments required for refrigeration work. Number 1. Pressure gauge. It is used to check the pressure of the refrigerant in refrigeration unit. There are high pressure vacuum and compound gauges. A pressure rise in Bowden tube makes it tend to straighten. This movement will pull on the link, which will turn the gear sector counterclockwise. The pointer shaft will then turn clockwise to move the needle. Most popular gauges have a 2.5-inch dial and are connected into refrigeration system with 1/8-inch meal pipe thread. Number 2. Compound gauge. It measures both pressure and vacuum. It is usually calibrated from 0 to 30 Hg and from 0 to 200 psig. Number 3. Revolution counters. The spindle of the counter, which is provided with a conical rubber bush, is placed in the countersunk portion of the machine shaft for measuring speed. The revolution counter counts the number of revolutions as long as its rubber brush is in contact with the shaft. To get the revolution per minute, it is necessary to have a timing device. Task 3. Let us identify the equipments required for refrigeration work. Number 1. Air compressor. An air compressor is used for various purposes in auto garages like washing, greasing and cleaning of the vehicle and the auto parts and inflating tires. It is used to test the leakage by building up pressure, flushing the refrigeration AC systems and choking systems to clear the pressure of the system. Number 2. Vacuum pump. Air contains various contaminants and moisture which, if present in the refrigeration system, can lead to issues such as ice formation, corrosion and reduced system efficiency. Evacuating the system helps maintaining a clean and dry environment. The primary purpose of using a vacuum pump is to evacuate air and moisture from the refrigeration system. Recap. In this video, we have discussed how to identify and use general hand tools, instruments and equipment used in refrigeration work. Hi everyone, in today's video, let us learn how to unroll, cut and bend on soft copper tubes. Objectives. At the end of this video, you can be able to unroll copper tubing from the roll, measure, mark and cut the copper tube the given size, then the copper tube. Let us collect the equipment required to do this exercise. Mallet, 1 number. Tube cutter, 0.25 mm, 1 number. Rimming tool, 1 number. Spring bender, 6 mm, 1 number. Lever type bender, 6 mm, 1 number. Steel rule, 1 number. Triangular file, 150 mm, 1 number. Copper tube, 6 mm, 1 coil. Cotton waste, as required. A small quantity of oil, as required. Procedure. Task 1. Unroll the copper tube. Step 1. Place the tube on the flat, clean surface. Choose a flat and clean surface where you can unroll the copper tube. A workbench, table, or even the floor can be suitable. Step 2. Unroll tube to the required length. Gently uncoil the copper tube from its packaged or coiled state. Start at one end and carefully allow the tube to unwind. Pay attention to any natural curves or bends in the tube. Never pull the pipe from the side of the coil. Step 3. If any bend in the tube, straighten the tube with light blows from mallet or plastic hammer. Task 2. Measure, mark and cut the copper tube in the given size. Step 1. Carefully measure the length of pipe needs and mark the outside where you are going to cut with the edge of a file. Step 2. Place the pipe between the bottom rollers and the top cutting wheel. Step 3. Position the pipe so that the cutting wheel is in line with the mark that you made with the file. Step 4. Tighten the hand screw until the cutting wheel just touches the outside of the pipe. Step 5. Turn the pipe cutter slowly around the pipe so that the cutting wheel cuts gradually into the outside. Step 6. Turn the hand screw to increase the pressure of the cutting wheel and then turn the cutter around the pipe again. Step 7. Continue the cutting by gradually increasing the pressure of the cutting wheel. Work slowly and carefully. Do not use too much pressure or you may damage the pipe. Step 8. When the cut is complete, seal the open end and roll the pipe back into a coil. Step 9. To remove all rough edges from the end of the pipe, use the reaming tool. Step 10. Hold the open end of the pipe to be reamed down so that pieces of copper will not get inside the pipe. Turn the reaming tool until all rough edges have been removed from the inside of the pipe. Observation table. Serial number 1. Parameter. Angle of the bend 1. Remarks. Correct or not correct. Number 2. Angle of the bend 2. Correct or not correct. Note. Repeat the same procedure for various sizes of tubes. Task 3. Bend the copper tube. Step 1. Refrigeration pipe is soft and can be bent by hand. Because it is soft, it can be easily damaged when bending. Step 2. If the pipe is hard and it will not bend easily, it must be annealed before use. Step 3. Choose a bending spring that matches the diameter of the tube you are working with. Bending springs come in various sizes to accommodate different tube diameters. Push a bending spring onto the outside of the pipe. See drawing. This helps the pipe to bend evenly. Step 4. Prior to bending, insert the bending spring into the tube. The spring should be long enough to cover the entire bend area. Ensure that the spring is positioned along the inner radius of the desired bend. Bend the pipe a little at a time using your thumbs. Do not try to complete the bend with one movement. This will cause the pipe to buckle. Step 5. Do not make a sharp bend in the pipe. If the pipe diameter is 1 by 4 inch, 6 mm, the sharpest bend that you can make without risk of damaging the pipe is 1 inch, 2.5 mm radius. See drawing, not less than 5 times of its diameter. Step 6. Pipe that cracks, splits, wrinkles or flattens during bending must not be used. Step 7. Bend the pipe so that it fits onto the connection easily. Step 8. After completing the bend, carefully remove the bending spring from the tube. This is typically done by pulling it out from one end of the tube. Step 9. Inspect the bend tube to ensure that the bend is smooth, free of defects, and has maintained its roundness. If necessary, further adjustments can be made. Recap. In this video, we have discussed how to unroll the copper tubing from the roll, measure, mark, and cut the copper tube to the given size. Bend the copper tube.
Hello and welcome to this session on importance of trade training, list of tools and machinery used in the trade, and safe use of tools and equipment. Let us begin with the session.
Let us now take a look at the objectives of this session. At the end of the session, you will be able to explain about importance of Turner trade training under CTS, explain the job opportunities and career development options after successful completion of training program, identify the general tools and equipment used in workshop, safety precautions to be carried while using various general tools and equipment used in workshop. Turner is a lathe operator who makes cylindrical metal articles to required specifications, primarily using lathe and other machine tools. Turner Trade under Craftsman Training Scheme (CTS) is one of the most popular ITI programs. At the completion of the training program, the trainee will be awarded National Trade Certificate (NTC) by Directorate General of Training (DGT). During the 2 years of ITI Turner program, candidates will be trained on professional skills, professional knowledge, and employability skills for up to total of 2,400 hours. In addition to this, a candidate is entrusted to carry project work or 300 hours of on-job training (OJT) at nearby industry and extracurricular activities to build up confidence. The practical skills are imparted right from the beginning, which includes fitting and turning exercises both in conventional and CNC machines. On successful completion of the program, the candidates can join mechanical, manufacturing, automotive, and engineering industries in public, private, and government sectors as technicians and can progress up to the manager level, can become an entrepreneur and start his or her own enterprise with the acquired skills through the training. Laterally can pursue diploma in related branches of engineering. With additional schooling, candidates can further pursue general or technical education, can join apprenticeship program in different types of industries leading to National Apprenticeship Certificate (NAC). Trainees have optional facility to register additional courses of up to 240 hours per year to obtain 10th and 12th class certification along with ITI certification. Can acquire National Craft Instructor Certificate (NCIC) to become instructor in technical institutes. Now let us list various general hand tools and equipment used in a typical machine shop or workshop and also know safety precautions to be followed while using them. Steel rules. Steel rules are made of spring steel or stainless steel. The steel rules are available in length of 150 mm, 300 mm and 600 mm. The reading accuracy of steel rule is 0.5 mm. For accurate reading, it is necessary to read vertically to avoid errors arising out of parallax. Do not place a steel rule with other cutting tools. Apply a thin layer of oil when not in use. Cold chisel. The cold chisel is a hand cutting tool used for chipping and cutting off operations. Common types of chisels. There are 5 common types of chisels: flat chisel, cross-cut chisel, half-round nose chisel, diamond point chisel, web chisel. Before using a chisel, ensure that the cutting edge is not dull or chipped. Eye protection must be worn when using any chisel. An engineer's hammer is a hand tool used for striking purposes while punching, bending, straightening, chipping, forging and riveting. An engineer's hammers are specified by their weight and the shape of their pin. Common types of hammers. Based on pin or head, there are 3 common types of hammers: ball peen, cross peen, straight peen. Before using a hammer, make sure the handle is properly fitted. While using hammers, select correct weight of hammer for particular work. Check the hammer head and handle whether any crack is there. Ensure that the face of the hammer is free from oil or grease. Do not use mushroomed head hammer. Filing is a method of removing excess material from a workpiece by using a file. Files are available in many shapes and sizes. Files are specified according to their length, grade, cut, and shape. Before using a file, it is important to choose the right file for the job. Always wear appropriate eye protection when using any file. Never use any file without proper handle. Never oil a file. Do not place the files with additional hand tools. A hacksaw frame is used along with the blade to cut metals of different sections and is specified by the type and maximum length of the blade that can be fixed. The two types of hacksaw frames are solid frame, adjustable frame flat type, adjustable frame tube type. While using the hacksaw frames, tight the hacksaw blades with correct tension. While selecting blades, make sure at least 2 teeth of the blades will be in contact with the work at all times. Vices are used for holding workpieces. They are available in different types. The vise used for bench work is the bench vise or called engineer's vise. Before using the bench vise, make sure your bench vise is securely attached to your workbench before using it. Keep your fingers clear of the jaws. The tri-square is an instrument which is used to check squareness or flatness of a surface. Mark lines at 90 degrees to the edges of workpieces and set workpieces at right angles. Care should be taken not to drop it. The most common devices used for measuring the outside and inside diameter of an object are the outside calipers and inside calipers. There are two types of calipers, namely firm joint calipers and spring calipers. The maintenance of calipers includes occasional oiling of the moving parts. Do not place the calipers with other hand tools. Care should be taken not to drop it. Scribers. A scriber is a hand tool used in metal work to mark lines on workpieces prior to machining. While using scribers, do not use blunted point. Place a cork on the point when not in use to prevent accidents. Scriber points are very sharp, therefore, do not put the scribers in your pocket. Pliers are generally used for gripping something and cutting thin sheets and wires. Common type of pliers are side cutting or cutting pliers, long nose pliers, utility pliers, diagonal cutting pliers, flat nose pliers, slip joint pliers, end cutting pliers. Most used pliers are cutting pliers, which are specified according to their length. Oil pliers and wire cutters regularly. Do not use pliers on nuts and bolts. Use a wrench or a spanner. Use insulated cutting plier for electrical work. A screwdriver is a hand tool used for turning screws. Select the suitable screwdriver to suit screw head. A vernier caliper is a measuring device that is used for the measurement of linear dimensions with higher accuracy. Do not place the vernier calipers with other hand tools. After the work, clean and apply film of oil. Check jaws butting and zero of main scale and vernier scale matching. A micrometer is an instrument used for making precise linear measurements of dimensions such as diameter, thickness, and lengths of solid bodies. Do not place the micrometer with other hand tools. After the work, clean and apply film of oil. Find and note the zero error before use. A swage block is a large, heavy block of cast iron or steel used in smithing. Do not give heavy blows on the edge or corners of the swage block. A punch is a tool used to indent or create a hole through a hard surface. Handle must be secured rigidly so that the punches do not come off while working. Now let us see other safety precautions to be followed on shop floor apart from what we have discussed till now. Safety in a workshop can be broadly classified into three categories: general safety, machine safety, personal safety. Now let us look at the various aspects of general safety. Keep the floor and gangways clean and clear. Move with care in the workshop. Do not run. Do not leave the machine in running condition. Do not touch or handle any equipment or machine unless authorized to do so. Do not walk under suspended loads. Do not cut practical jokes while on work. Use the correct tools for the job. Keep the tools at their proper place. Wipe out spilt oil immediately. Replace worn out or damaged tools immediately. Never direct compressed air at yourself or at your co-worker. Ensure adequate light in the workshop. Clean the machine only when it is not in motion. Sweep away the metal cuttings. Know everything about the machine before you start it. To recap, we have learned to explain about importance of Turner trade training under CTS, explain the job opportunities and career development options after successful completion of training program, identify the general tools and equipment used in workshop, safety precautions to be carried while using various general tools and equipment used in workshop.
So that's all about importance of trade training, list of tools and machinery used in the trade, and safe use of tools and equipment. Hope you have understood the concepts and exercises. See you in the next session. Hello and welcome to this session on safety attitude development of the trainee by educating them to use personal protective equipment, PPE, and hazard identification and avoidance. Let us begin with the session.
Let us now take a look at the objectives of the session. At the end of the session, you will be able to understand the use of PPE, identify the hazards and learn how to avoid them. Safety measures taken to protect the employees, equipment and business property is referred as workplace safety. Importance and need of workplace safety are prevent injuries, illness, or even death in the workplace, overcome financial difficulty and suffering that may affect workers, families, and even the employers, improve workplace morale and reduce workplace stress, improves productivity, develop a positive brand image among suppliers and customers, improve the employee retention rate. One of the root causes of workplace injuries, illnesses, and incidents is the failure to identify or recognize hazards that are present or that could have been anticipated. So, the first step in ensuring the workplace safety is hazard identification and assessment. Eliminating the majority of identified hazards or risks is an effective way to assure workplace safety. If the identified hazards cannot be eliminated, those hazards should be assessed properly and effective controls should be implemented in order to ensure safety. Effective controls generally include proper training and facilitating of the workers about the hazards and precautions that needs to be followed in the workplace. Having knowledge of various safety precautions can help workers to avoid workplace accidents. This helps in building safety attitude among the workers. It's important to know what could be hazardous to us in the workplace and how to avoid these hazards to ensure proper health and safety. Occupational hazard. A source or a situation with the potential to harm in terms of injury or ill health, damage to property, damage to the workplace environment, or a combination of these is termed as occupational hazard. Various types of occupational hazards are physical hazards, chemical hazards, biological hazards, physiological hazards, psychological hazards, mechanical hazards, electrical hazards, ergonomic hazards. Let us now look into what comprises of each of these hazards in detail. Physical hazards comprise of the following and are denoted by these warning signs: high noise levels, heat stress, cold stress, machine vibrations, ionizing radiation, non-ionizing radiation, low illumination, falling or tripping, confined spaces, electric shock. There are some more physical hazards such as working barefoot in the shop floor, using a file without a handle, striking on a chisel head with a ball peen hammer without wedge, keeping a scriber with the sharp edge open in the pocket, chipping a metal surface with mushroom head chisel, chipping on a metal surface without safety goggles, lifting a heavy load with damaged slings, lifting loads while people are working nearby, standing below a suspended load. Chemical hazards comprise of the following and are denoted by these warning signs: inflammable chemicals, explosives, toxic materials, corrosive chemicals, radioactive materials. Biological hazards comprise of bacteria, virus, fungi, plant pest, infective materials. They are commonly denoted by this warning sign. Physiological hazards may induce due to aging, job strain, effort-reward imbalance, lack of supervisor and co-worker support, long working hours, work intensification, work-life balance, job insecurity. Psychological hazards comprise of wrong attitude, smoking, alcoholism, unskilled approach, poor discipline including absenteeism, insubordination, aggressive behavior, accident proneness, emotional disturbances such as violence and bullying, sexual harassment. Mechanical hazard comprises of unguarded machinery, no fencing, no safety device, no control device. Electrical hazards comprise of the following: no earthing, short circuit, current leakage, open wire, no fuse or cut-off device. Ergonomic hazards comprise of the following: poor manual handling technique, wrong layout of machinery, poor design, poor housekeeping, awkward working position, usage of wrong tools. In situations where it is not possible to introduce any effective engineering methods for controlling or eliminating hazards, the workmen shall use appropriate types of personal protective equipment. Now let us know about PPE. They are devices, equipment, or clothing used or worn by the employees to protect themselves against hazards in the workplace. The PPE is broadly classified into two categories: non-respiratory, respiratory. Non-respiratory PPE. They are used for protection against injury from outside the body, that is, for protecting the head, eye, face, hand, arm, foot, leg, and other body parts. Respiratory PPE. They are used for protection from harm due to inhalation of contaminated air. Now let us know about specific types of PPE against various hazards. If the hazard is of high noise levels, this mandatory signboard compels the people working in that area to wear hearing protection like earmuffs or earplugs. If the hazard is of overhanging loads or falling objects or spatters, This mandatory signboard compels the people working in that area to wear head protection like safety helmets. If the hazard is of flying debris or dust, this mandatory signboard compels the people working in that area to wear eye protection like safety goggles. If the hazard is of falling objects, hot spatter, wet or slippery floors, this mandatory signboard compels the people working in that area to wear leg and foot protection like safety shoes. If the hazard is of high amount of light and radiation, sparks and striking spatter, this mandatory signboard compels the people working in that area to wear face and eyes protection like face shields. If the hazard is of handling hot objects, chemicals, flying sparks, spatters and electric shock, this mandatory signboard compels the people working in that area to wear hand protection like safety gloves. If the hazard is of dust particles, fumes, gases or microbes, this mandatory signboard compels the people working in that area to wear respiratory protection like face masks. If the hazard is of working in low visibility area, this mandatory signboard compels the people working in that area to wear protective high visibility jackets or clothes. If the hazard is of working at heights, this mandatory signboard compels the people working in that area to wear safety harness. If the hazard is of hot or cold spatters and sparks, this mandatory signboard compels the people working in that area to wear protective apron. To recap, we have learned to understand the use of PPE, identify the hazards and learn how to avoid them.
So that's all about safety attitude development of the trainee by educating them to use personal protective equipment, PPE and hazard identification and avoidance. See you in the next session. Hello and welcome to this session on First Aid Method and Basic Training. Let us begin with the session.
Let us now take a look at the objectives of the session. At the end of the session, you will be able to rescue breathing for an unconscious victim of different condition by following methods. Resuscitate the victim by Nelson's arm lift back pressure method. Schaeffer's method. Mouth-to-mouth method. Mouth-to-nose method. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation CPR. Perform treatment for stopping of bleeding. First aid is defined as the immediate care and support given to an acutely injured or ill person, primarily to save life, prevent further deterioration or injury, plan to shift the victims to safer places, provide best possible comfort, and finally help them to reach the medical center or hospital through all available means. The key aims of first aid can be summarized in 3 key points. Preserve life. If the patient was breathing, A first aider would normally place them in the recovery position with the patient leaned over on their side, which also has the effect of clearing the tongue from the pharynx. It also avoids a common cause of death in unconscious patients. Prevent further harm. Also, sometimes called prevent the condition from worsening or danger of further injury, this covers both external factors such as moving a patient away from any cause of harm and applying first aid techniques to prevent worsening of the condition, such as applying pressure to stop a bleed becoming dangerous. Promote recovery. First aid also involves trying to start the recovery process from the illness or injury, and in some cases might involve completing a treatment, such as in the case of applying a plaster to a small wound. ABC of first aid. ABC stands for airway, breathing, and circulation. Airway. Attention must first be brought to the airway to ensure it is clear. Obstruction or choking is a life-threatening emergency. Breathing. Breathing, if stops, the victim may die soon. Hence, means of providing support for breathing is an important next step. There are several methods practiced in first aid. Circulation. Blood circulation is vital to keep person alive. The first aiders now train to go straight to chest compressions through CPR methods. Now let us look at the procedure to prepare the victim to receive artificial respiration. Loosen the tight clothing which may interfere with the victim's breathing. If the victim is in elevated place, bring the victim safely to the ground level. Take necessary safety measures. Start artificial respiration immediately without delay. In general, avoid violent operations to prevent injury to the internal parts of the victim. There are various methods of artificial respiration such as Nelson's arm or lift back pressure method, Schaffer's method, mouth to mouth method, mouth to nose method, cardiopulmonary resuscitation or CPR method. Now let us look into the procedure to resuscitate the victim by Nelson's arm by the lift back pressure method. Place the victim prone, that is face down, with his arms folded, with the palms one over the other and the head resting on his cheek over the palms. Kneel on one or both knees near the victim's hand. Place your hands on the victim's back beyond the line of the armpits, with your fingers spread outwards and downwards, thumbs just touching each other. Gently rock forward, keeping your arms straight until they are nearly vertical, and steadily pressing the victim's back as to force the air out of the victim's lungs. Synchronize the movement of rocking backwards with your hands sliding downwards along the victim's arms and grasp his upper arm just above the elbows. Continue to rock backwards. As you rock back, gently raise and pull the victim's arms towards you until you feel tension in his shoulders. To complete the cycle, lower the victim's arms and move your hands up to the initial position. When the victim revives, keep the victim warm with a blanket, wrapped up with hot water bottles or warm bricks, Stimulate circulation by stroking the insides of the arms and legs towards the heart. Keep him in the lying down position and do not let him exert himself. There are some do's and don'ts that we need to take care of while performing the procedure. Let's look at these do's and don'ts. Nelson's arm lift back pressure method must not be used in case there are injuries to the chest and belly. Do not give the victim any stimulant until he is fully conscious. Next, let us look into the procedure to resuscitate the victim by Schaffer's method. Lay the victim on his belly, one arm extended direct forward, the other arm bent at the elbow and with the face turned sideward and resting on the hand or forearm. Kneel with one knee on either side of the victim so that his thighs are between your knees and keep your fingers and thumbs positioned. With the arms held straight, swing forward slowly so that the weight of your body is gradually brought to bear upon the lower ribs of the victim to force the air out of the victim's lungs. Now swing backward immediately, removing all the pressure from the victim's body, thereby allowing the lungs to fill with air. After 2 seconds, swing forward again and repeat the cycle usually at a rate of 12 to 15 times per minute. Continue artificial respiration till the victim begins to breathe naturally. Avoid this method in case of injuries to the victim on the chest and belly region. Next, let us look at the procedure to resuscitate the victim by mouth-to-mouth method. First, lay the victim flat on his back and place a roll of clothing under his shoulders to ensure that his head is thrown well back. Tilt the victim's head back so that the chin points straight upward. Grasp the victim's jaw and raise it upward until the lower teeth are higher than the upper teeth. Maintain the jaw position throughout the artificial respiration to prevent the tongue from blocking the air passage. Take a deep breath and place your mouth over the victim's mouth, making airtight contact. Pinch the victim's nose shut with the thumb and forefinger. If you dislike direct contact, place a porous cloth between your mouth and the victim's. For an infant, place your mouth over his mouth and nose. Blow into the victim's mouth until his chest rises. Remove your mouth and release the hold on the nose to let him exhale, turning your head to hear the rushing out of air. There are some do's and don'ts that we need to take care of while performing the procedure. Let's look at these do's and don'ts. If air cannot be blown in, check the position of the victim's head and jaw and recheck the mouth for obstructions. Then try again more forcefully. If the chest still does not rise, turn the victim's face down and strike his back sharply to dislodge obstructions. Sometimes air enters the victim's stomach as evidenced by a swelling stomach. Expel the air by gently pressing the stomach during the exhalation period. Now let us look at the procedure to resuscitate the victim by mouth-to-nose method. Use the fingers of one hand to keep the victim's lips firmly shut. Seal your lips around the victim's nostrils and breathe into him. Check to see if the victim's chest is rising and falling. Repeat this exercise at the rate of 10 to 15 times per minute till the victim responds. Use this method when the victim's mouth will not open or has a blockage. Now let us know the procedure to resuscitate a victim who is under cardiac arrest by cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR. Check quickly whether the victim is under cardiac arrest by checking for the absence of the cardiac pulse in the neck, blue color around lips, and lay the victim on his back on a firm surface. Kneel alongside the victim, facing the chest, and locate the lower part of the breastbone. Place the palm of one hand on the center of the lower part of the breastbone, keeping your fingers off the ribs. Cover the palm with your other hand and lock your fingers together. Keeping your arms straight, press sharply down on the lower part of the breastbone. Then release the pressure. Repeat the previous step at least at the rate of 15 times per minute. Check the cardiac pulse. Move back to the victim's mouth to give 2 breaths, mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Continue with another 15 compressions of the heart, followed by a further 2 breaths of mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and check the pulse at frequent intervals. As soon as the heartbeat returns, stop the compressions immediately but continue with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation until natural breathing is fully restored. Place the victim in the recovery position. Keep him warm and get medical help quickly. To recap, we have learned to rescue breathing for an unconscious victim of different condition by following methods. Resuscitate the victim by Nelson's arm lift back pressure method. Schaeffer's method. Mouth-to-mouth method. Mouth-to-nose method. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation CPR. Perform treatment for stopping of bleeding.
So that's all about first aid method and basic training. See you in the next session.
Hello viewers, welcome to DigiShala. I am Rajalakshmi, Training Manager working at National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj, Hyderabad. Today we will discuss some of the queries we got from all over the country on different modes of digital payments.